Hello, Malcolm Brady here again from Dublin City University. I'm going to talk to you today about summarising the various different strategic approaches that firms can take to their marketplace. So I've summarised 4 different approaches here on this slide, and these are 4 of the more common ones. And I have 4 more less commonly mentioned approaches on the next slide. So between them, that's 8 different broad approaches to take to competing. Okay, so these are very high level approaches to competing. The first one would probably be the most well-known one at this stage in the strategy field, and this is the positioning approach. And this is, I've given the literature here, under literature heading, I've given Michael Porter's name, who was the main proponent of this, but obviously there are others who followed in his wake. And essentially, the basis for competing here is to determine an industry position that's either an industry that's attractive that you can get a good position in, or an attractive position in an industry that even if the industry isn't fully attractive, there may be a good niche in that industry in which you can get a good position. And the idea then is to defend that position from competition. So the position is usually through one of Porter's generic strategies, low cost or differentiation. And you develop that through a tailored value chain and fit and making trade-offs where necessary to provide a good offering. Okay, but once you've got that position, then you try and hold it. So and you do that through creating barriers to entry. So, for example, when Google arranges with Apple to have its search engine being the default search engine on Apple devices, that's creating, that's Google creating a barrier to entry to that industry, or to making it more difficult for competitors to enter that industry, or making it more difficult for rivals in the industry. So that's a move in the vein of Michael Porter's positioning approach. Similarly, increasing switching costs, making it difficult for consumers to switch, or people to switch from your product to a rival's product, or to an alternative substitute product from a different industry. Creating those kind of switching costs again makes it difficult to hold. Allows you to hold your position with your consumers, makes it difficult for consumers to move elsewhere. So these are very much moves in the vein of Porter's positioning strategy. And the economic advantage there is largely is broadly a monopoly type advantage. You're making it difficult for others to compete, so it's an advantage in the form of monopoly. Okay, by contrast, then operational effectiveness. I've given Michael Hammer as an example here, or Davenport as examples of people who have been writing in this area. And here you're essentially looking at the business processes, how you conduct your business, and you're trying to reduce costs and make those as efficient as possible. So you're gaining a rent or an economic advantage through efficiency, sometimes called a Chicago advantage, from the Chicago school, who are focused on efficiency. From the Hammer Davenport literature, the ESIA is eliminate, simplify, integrate, automate, a sort of an acronym to summarize the approaches you might take to making your processes more efficient. And then a methodology from the lean literature, plan, do, check, act, is a way of achieving that. Okay, but there's lots of other acronyms to lots of other elements of the theory here. I've just given some examples, but essentially you're aiming at reducing the cost and improving your efficiency and gaining this efficiency advantage. So that's the operational effectiveness approach. Resource-based view of the firm, with the resource-based approach, I've given Barney here as one of the examples, one of the writers from the literature. Essentially, the primary basis for your advantage here are your own resources. It's an internal advantage, whereas Porter is looking at externally at the industry, position in the industry as the source of your advantage. In the resource-based view, you look at your internal resources, your capabilities, as your source of advantage, and they're the ones, it's those capabilities that will lead you into growth opportunities into the future. And the advantage, the competitive advantage, is where they're valuable, rare, inimitable, and non-substitutable. That makes it difficult for others to copy that advantage. It makes your advantages durable. Okay, so your advantage here is a relative one, as in your resources and capabilities are better than your competitors. And hence you get that relative advantage over your competitors. And as I say, it's durable if they are difficult to imitate. So that's the resource-based advantage of the resource-based view of the firm as a source of strategic approach. The final one on this slide is an innovation or dynamic capabilities approach. Jesper and David Teese are given as examples of writers in this field or subfield of strategy. And here you're looking at essentially providing particular value through your innovative capabilities to customers. Apple, for example, are a firm that have traditionally followed this approach. They keep bringing out very innovative new products, catch people's attention, hold them, people buy them at premium prices. And then after a number of years, you bring out another product and people buy those at premium prices. And if you must keep bringing out new products, usually premium products at premium prices, but you're bringing out new products all the time. And it's that cycle of innovation and new things that gives you your competitive advantage. And the economic advantage there is known as Schumpeterian, from the economist Joseph Schumpeter, who first looked at this notion of innovation providing an advantage. And it's a temporal advantage, as in, you have that advantage for a certain length of, but only for a certain length of time. Your innovation will last you some length of time, but then others will realize it's that people are attracted to this particular innovation and will seek to produce it and copy it. So you will be copied, and you have it for a length of time, and hence you must move on to the next innovation to keep sustaining this kind of advantage. So hence an innovation or dynamic capability advantage. Dynamic capabilities is the let's say the dynamic or innovative approach, innovative wing of the resource-based view, where you must keep re-energizing your capabilities through a sensing of opportunities, seizing of opportunities, and transforming the organization to achieve the sensing and to achieve the capability to sense and seize these new opportunities. So it's a dynamic one, hence I've labeled it under the innovation strand here. We'll move on to the second slide. And these are, as I said, less well known. There's a new business model innovation approach coming in. Lanzalo and Marquides talk about this in their very recent paper, 2020 paper. And they talk about the business model being this interdependent set of activities. And we've seen that from business model constructs, the Johnson model of customer value proposition, resources, processes, and profit formula, that integrated set of activities that gives you the value. And they say that, and they also note that it spans the organizational boundary. You're not necessarily restricted to just the organization through channels, partnerships, and so on. You're looking outside the organization as well. So the business model is more than just the firm itself. It encompasses, as I say, partners, channels, and other external units. They argue that the competitive advantages where barriers to imitation are low, hence it's difficult to get a positional advantage, and when resources don't tend to be very heterogeneous or relatively homogeneous sets of resources internally to the firm. And again, it's very hard to get a resource-based advantage there. So when neither of those two advantages are easily available, they suggest you attempt the business model innovation approach, and it's to do with this the interdependence of the set of activities. Sources of advantages, these are from Zott and Ament. Novelty, lock-in, complementarities, or efficiency. And straight away you can see novelty is to do with innovation type advantage. Lock-in is very much a positional type, where you're making switching costs difficult, switching difficult through generating some form of switching cost. Efficiency is in line with the operational effectiveness approach. So they're piggybacking on some of the other methods we've talked about already. Complementarity is to do with bundling various offerings together, and again creating an additional advantage that way. Okay, but either way, you're looking at this integrated set of activities known as the business model and trying to create your advantage based on that. The institutional or game theoretic, more well known as the institutional approach, I've given Brandenburger and Nailbuff as examples there from game theory, taking a game theoretic approach, and Hodgson, who takes an institutional approach. And essentially, you're looking there, you're basically, the approach here is often that the firm doesn't have that much scope to actually create any huge position or huge competitive advantage, that it's largely driven by institutional forces, existing rules, existing institutions, legal or regulatory, and to do with society as well, social norms, social practices, and so on. So all of these defines or constrain the firm in what it can do. So it doesn't have all that much scope, really. Okay. One potential source of advantage is to understand the rules of the game and to alter those rules to the advantage of, say, the industry, to your firm, or maybe to the industry as a whole. And that can involve that can lead to an increasing in the size of the pie for the industry, so that this competition among the firms in the industry can lead to an increase in size of the pie, and therefore everybody is better off. That's the notion behind this co-opetition notion. Resource dependency is taking a different approach altogether, and that's really saying that firms are involved in exchange with other firms, and they have to. The aim of these exchanges are to secure external resources. These can be labor, people to work in the organization, capital, source of capital for the organization, materials, or customers can be regarded as a resource. In other words, the firm needs customers to survive. If it doesn't have customers, it can't survive. So the function of the firm is to source customers for itself. The competitive advantage here is one of autonomy, to be independent, to be less dependent on other resources, other of these resources that you need, suppliers, customers, and so on. And they argue it can even be at the expense of redundancy. In other words, you can have two suppliers, even where one would be enough. You have two to keep your options open, to keep your autonomy intact. And the source of advantage here is to do with power and dependence, so power over other organizations that you have dealings with, and less dependence on other organizations. And that gives you, as I say, autonomy and reduces uncertainty and so on. So this is very much part of the resource dependency point of view. Okay, we're not talking about any particular economic advantage here. It's to exist, to survive. And transaction cost economics, the final broad approach. And the two writers here, Ronald Coase and Oliver Williamson, both Nobel Prize winners. And essentially they're suggesting that there's a cost to using the price system. They're wondering why firms exist. That was Ronald Coase's question in 1937. Why does the firm exist? Why aren't all transactions, why don't all transactions take place in the market? And he came to the conclusion that there's a cost of using the market or using the price mechanism. There's a search cost, there's a bargaining cost, and so on. Okay, so all of those costs are actually real. And those costs lead firms sometimes to transact or carry out transactions within the firm. In other words, we employ people, and firms employ people and assign those people tasks as time goes on. And all of those tasks aren't preordained. They're assigned as needed. The competitive advantage, but really the concepts related to competitive advantage here are to do with uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen, so hence it can be useful to have people within the hierarchy, within the firm, as opposed to externally to the firm. Bounded rationality, we don't fully understand everything, so when we contract, we don't always know. Our suppliers may know more than we do, and that can create a disadvantage. Hence, you might sometimes want that type of transaction to be more within the firm than external to the firm. Opportunism, as in people can take advantage of a firm. If there's uncertainty, if there's bounded rationality, opportunism can take place. And assets can be specific. When a firm invests in assets that are specific to, say, a particular supplier's products or components, that can give advantage to the supplier because they know now the firm has invested in these specific assets and it would be reluctant to switch to a different supplier. So that can lead to opportunism. So there are four of the elements, fundamental elements of transaction cost economic theory, and leading to transactions taking place within the hierarchy as opposed to through the marketplace. So the ultimate source of advantage here is to minimize the sum total of transaction costs within the market and through the price mechanism. And you use this through judicious governance of the firm, through use of hierarchy and through use of the marketplace. So it's really a theory to do with the size of the firm or the boundary of the firm, where the firm stops and the market ends. When do you hire in a contractor to do a particular defined job, or where do you employ somebody to do work as needed that you can allocate as time goes on? So these are broad strategic approaches, quite an amount of theory covered here, huge range of different literatures covered. So this is very much a quick summary of the various theories that we have looked at so far. So thank you.